So hello and welcome to the Arlington International Film Festival. My name is April Rank, the Executive Director of the festival, and I have with me Doug McCorkle, who is the actor as well as the producer for our Best of Festival film this year, I'm an Electric Lampshade. So welcome, Doug.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, April. It's nice to be here.
Well, we're really sorry that we're not doing a live theater screening this year where you could be with us, but this is second best, so thank you again.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So I'm curious, in the film, we understand that you're retiring after a number of years and you decide that you're going to do a music video as kind of this going away parting.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, when you started practicing for that, is that when the film idea came into being, or was that way after the practicing for the video, the music video?
So that's a great question. The music video came first. John Clayton Doyle, who's the writer and director of the film, was the choreographer for the original music video, and that's when John and I started working together. And after we finished the music video, that was when John and I started talking about, well, gee, what would we like to do next? And so the idea actually, April, was that we would do a short film. We were thinking something along the lines of 20 to 30 minutes. Now, that short film grew organically over a span of about 4.5 years of filming to I'm an Electric Lampshade that you see now. So it was quite a process. And John and I worked together very closely for a long time. And there you have it, that I'm an Electric Lampshade.
So I understand that this was John Clayton Doyle's premiere film as well as yours, right?
Yes, for both of us, it was the first time that we had done a feature film. For me personally, it was the first time I'd done a film at all. For John, he has been involved in some other either short films, or he also starred in a feature film that our second producer, Jacob Krupnick, directed and wrote. And so yeah, so John has a little more experience in this than I do, but this was John's directorial debut for a feature-length film.
And you met through the other producer?
No, actually, John auditioned to be the choreographer for the first music video that I did.
Okay.
We had another producer for that music video, and he did a casting call for choreographers. John answered the call, and my four colleagues who were working with me on that original music video, and I really liked John, and so we started working with him. And after the music video was done, you know, I went to John, said, I'd like to continue working with you. And that's when he said, well, what are we going to work on? I wasn't really sure. And he was the one that said, how about a short film? Let's continue to challenge you, and let's see where we go with this. And well, it grew and grew into I'm an Electric Lampshade, April.
So no local theater productions that you've been involved in. This was the first experience. So where did you start to even look for choreographers or voice teachers? I mean, all of this was like, you had not broached any of this, right? Until you decided to make the music video.
Yeah, I decided to make the music video. So there were actually originally 2 music videos. There was one, I had a supervisor that I had worked for 15 years at the company I was at, and he was retiring before I was. And so I knew they were going to ask me to speak because I had worked for them for so long. And most of these, as you can imagine, most of these corporate events are a pretty boring affair. And so I decided, what I said to myself, well, what am I going to do that's really going to be fun but out of the ordinary for his retirement event? And out of the blue, I came up with the idea of doing a music video, and talked to a couple of friends, and they said, this is a great idea. Actually, a friend of mine found my first vocal teacher, who I work with, Jillian, who appears in the film. And as I said, we found a producer and for the music video, for the music videos, and one was my retirement video, one was his. And yeah, we did. And then John and I just kept working together. So it was, you know, it's just one of those things, April, where you're in the right place at the right time, and you just find the right people, and you know, you thank your lucky stars that you had such good fortune.
And writing the script, was that an ongoing process, or did you start out with a pretty clear script before you went to the Philippines?
Oh, well, that's a really good question. And it's also a very funny story. So we actually did not write the script to the film until the film was over.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, John, I had to task John with going back to write a script for the film when we knew we were going to go to film festivals and we needed to copyright it and so on. But John's creative process was to use mood boards and do this kind of on what I'll call a shoot by shoot basis. So and we parsed it up into each of the shoots. We had some smaller shoots before I retired. Then we had the Philippines shoot, that was a big piece. Then we had a couple other smaller shoots in the New York metropolitan area. And then we pretty much finished it off with the big shoot in Mexico City. And each of those was kind of set unto itself in terms of how we were going to film it. And a lot of it, some of it was very kind of what I'll call on the spot. It wasn't as if we had a set script. We were kind of making it up as we go. Not the most efficient way to make a film, mind you, but you know, and we had a lot of footage, obviously, but you know, the way it all came out, I mean, I couldn't really be happier with how it all turned out in the end. And then after we had the whole thing edited, and admittedly for our dear editor, Rachel Webster, editing without a script is kind of like trying to walk a trail without a map. It's very challenging. And so the editing process was painstakingly long, but we eventually got to a place that we were all very happy. And Rachel spoke her mind about how she thought the film ought to kind of play out, and it was extraordinarily helpful. So, but it is a strange way to make a film, April. Very strange.
Well, this was new territory for both of you, so
yeah, absolutely.
You could just walk your own path.
Absolutely.
How long were you in the Philippines?
I was in the Philippines for about 3.5 weeks. The film crew was in the Philippines for about 6 weeks. So they got there before I did the scout locations and do casting and so on and so forth. And then I came a little bit afterward. They did some filming before I got there, and then I arrived, and yeah, about 3.5 weeks.
Did that really, the 3.5 weeks that you were under, what is his name? Sin
Andre. Yes.
Sin Andre. Was that really enough time to give you in preparation for the Mexico concert?
No. So the Sin Andre's part of the film, the performance school, certainly filming that contributed to my to my learning how to perform, but there was an awful lot that went on behind the scenes that helped me prepare to be a performer. I mean, as my performance coach said, her name was Robin Dunn, and Robin actually appears in the film as my performance coach. But Robin said, "You're kind of compressing like years and years that it would normally take a performer to get on stage into the span of about a year." We worked together for a little over a year, trying to hone my performance. And in the meantime, I was also working with my vocal coach, who by then was Marlon Saunders in the city. And I was working with 3 dance coaches. And so it was a complete makeover, shall we say. But it was an amazing adventure, very challenging. When I look at performers now, I just so appreciate how hard they work at their craft. And when I look at what actors do now, I so appreciate how hard they work at making a film. So it really wakes you up to what goes on behind the scenes.
I can only imagine.
Yes.
So you came that 3.5 weeks in the Philippines, then you come back to New York and you really work for a year.
Yeah. The Philippines, actually, we shot that back in March of 2017, and we didn't shoot in Mexico City until late 2019. So after I got back from the Philippines, around the summer of 2017, that's when I really started in earnest to learn to dance, to expand my vocal range, and to learn to perform with Robin. I mean, we were working week in, week out, trying to find my best performance way to approach things. And it took us a while, but about 2 months before the Mexico City concert, we finally hit it, and we were both ecstatic. So, but it's a process.
I'm sure. Had you been a very physical person before, like running, jogging, working out, that kind of thing? Because I can only imagine.
If you had asked me that question back in my early years, like my 20s and 30s, I would have said no. But right around my 40s, I really started to get into physical fitness, and I was running, and I was biking, and I was weightlifting at the time, which I don't do anymore. Now I do more shall we say, body weight work with my trainer, George Corso. So so yes, but I did get into fitness, but I really trained hard for the film, obviously. And I was working with George then, and he really whipped me into shape. And so, so it was nice to see all the results.
Sure. And I'm wondering too about your writing skills. You wrote a lot of the music, or I saw that you co-wrote some of the music. Have you written before?
No.
In any? No. Okay.
No. That the writing, a lot of the writing, I attribute a good portion of the writing to my first vocal coach, Jillian, who just said, she would play a track and she would say, "I want you to, just freestyle it. Like say whatever comes to your head. Don't think about it. Don't filter it. Just say whatever comes to your head." And funny story, April, the first lyric that I ever uttered in Jillian's presence was, "I'm an electric lampshade."
Wow.
And so, that clearly stuck in the music to "Hooked on Me," which was the first the first song that I did with John and other instrumentalists and composers. And so So, John also helped with the writing. There are a couple of songs where he actually wrote all the lyrics. Another Look is all his creation. But we worked with some other great composers who helped us with creating the tracks. And it was a really fun process.
There was a song that you did toward the end, I don't know what's right or what's real anymore,
Yeah,
those words.
yeah.
Did that come from this whole experience of,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, that's a really good question. So, The Fear is a song that was written, or at least co-written, by Lily Allen and performed originally by Lily Allen a number of years ago. Much different, in a much different style, more of a pop song style. John and I really liked the lyrics to that song. It kind of portrayed the challenges that Doug was going through on his journey to being a performer.
mhm,
And the idea to perform the song in drag, part of it in drag, was actually originally my idea. I had just thought that would be kind of a real way to step outside, completely outside my comfort zone, and do something that was completely unexpected for me. And John embraced it, as we were working with Jillian at the time, and she loved the idea. So
mhm,
it took us a while to get shall we say, the costume
mhm.
exactly
Uh-huh,
right.
uh-huh.
But yeah, it is meant to represent a lot of the challenges that Doug and I personally experienced in learning to be a performer, and in trying to navigate through this huge change in my life from being this corporate person for 40 years or so to
Mm,
now being this creative performer.
right. And so vulnerable,
Yeah,
right out there,
absolutely. I
right
mean,
out there.
as I'm sure you know, in the corporate environment, vulnerability is not something that you display. You're meant to,
Exactly.
yeah, you're meant to kind of keep everything within bounds, shall we say? And
Mhm.
so transitioning from that to a place of being vulnerable and connecting to your performance and your music was quite a change in perspective, and just, I mean, in so many ways. So yeah, that was one of the most difficult parts of doing this whole film.
As someone that has just retired as
Yeah.
well,
Hmm.
um, I really identified with this film from the beginning, and just the bravery of stepping out there and doing something so different from what people perceive as who you are.
Yeah.
And I just, did you, it sounds as though you actually went through a very psychological time through this whole preparation. Am I
Yes.
reading that right?
No, you're reading that absolutely accurately. So there were a number of things that happened during the filming of this movie that were difficult in a lot of ways. So personally for me, stepping outside, completely outside of the box, now outside of my comfort zone, as we've discussed, was a challenge in itself.
Mhm.
But also, as portrayed in the film, my wife Gina, God bless her, she does suffer from mental illness. She suffers from depression and anxiety, and it has been part of her life since an early age. And so she goes through ups and downs all the time, and she went through a very difficult period while we were filming. And so that really tugs at your heartstrings, and it probably actually improved my performance in the film itself. But there was a voice in my head that said, what are you doing? You ought to be home with your wife.
Mhm.
Her difficulties, she had some difficult times when I was in the Philippines, you know, and also while I was training, a lot of my we live about 90 miles north of New York City, but I had to do all my training down in New York City. That's where my vocal and dance coaches and performance coaches were. And so I was away quite a bit. And Gina was going through some really tough times during that period. So
Mhm.
yes, so you're absolutely right. The psychological journey for me, not only overcoming all the self-doubts and the negative voices, and also negative voices, frankly, that were coming from some friends and even family members who said, what are you doing? This sounds completely insane. Um,
Yeah.
are you sure you really want to do this? You know, yeah.
Mhm.
So yes,
Mhm.
accurate assessment, April.
How did you choose Mexico for your big concert? Mexico
So,
City.
yeah, so interesting story. We had originally thought that we might travel back to the Philippines to shoot the concert, but for a variety of reasons, we realized that we didn't really want to travel that far. B, we were having difficulty identifying a good venue in the Philippines, and so, but we did want Doug to perform outside of the U.S.
Okay.
So one of our colleagues on the creative team said, what about Mexico? And that's how the whole Mexico City idea came to pass. And I have to tell you, it was a wonderful experience filming down there. I had never been to Mexico City. It was a great city to film in, and the crew that we had working with us was absolutely spectacular. And so really couldn't have worked out any better for us.
How do you promote a concert like that when you're not a national name?
Well, you have to kind of bring in some extras.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That's how you have to do it. If you're not a national name and you're not well known, you kind of have to get some help from your production company down in Mexico City to fill the concert hall. So
Okay. But
that's
you
what we
filled the
did.
concert hall, right?
Yeah, we did. We we um we got it to a capacity where it looks and feels like the real deal.
That's great. And was Gina there for that concert?
She wasn't. I knew that if she came, that she'd be kind of sitting around twiddling her thumbs because I was going to be nonstop working on the film and getting filmed and makeup and all the rest of that stuff.
Right.
So I suggested to her that she not come for that particular filming, which, you know, in hindsight was, I think, the right move.
Mhm.
We'll go some other time to Mexico City as vacationers and enjoy
Sure.
it that way.
Sure. And I'm sure that your whole focus had to be on this concert, to really
Yeah.
pull it off.
Well,
Are-
John Clayton Doyle and I talked about it a little bit because Gina had expressed a little bit of interest in coming to Mexico City. And when John and I talked about it, because John knew what Gina goes through, and he said it's probably not the right time for her to come, Doug. So and you know, it was a collective decision, and she
Right.
understood. So it was good.
Sure. Sure. So are you going to continue to perform, Doug?
That's an excellent question, April. The fun part about this is I don't know yet, but it's certainly something that's a possibility. Right now, my focus has been on continuing to promote the film. We've been in a lot of film festivals, and we have some more coming up, which has been just a wonderful experience. Unfortunately, as we're experiencing with Arlington, most of these have been virtual, but still, nonetheless, there's a lot of work involved. And then we're going to be looking for distribution for the film. And once we get all those kind of pieces in place, then then I'll have the time to sit back and assess, like, what's the next adventure. And
Right.
because there are plenty more adventures to have before I can't do them anymore. So it's all good.
Yes, it is all good. I think that age, embrace it is what you said.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what this film is all about. We don't get to do this again. So we have to really value every day that we have and live it like we really want to live it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. There were one of the things that John and I talked about when we were talking about the concept for this film is I had heard so many people, friends of mine who hadn't retired yet, people who were actually even weren't at retirement age, who said, we're already saying things like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And, you know, I'm too old to do this and I'm too X, Y, you know, fill in the blank. And I just thought April was so sad. It was just depressing to hear people say that. You know, I would turn to them and go, why are you feeling that way? I mean, if you're in good health and, you know, if you've always dreamed about, I don't know, playing the guitar, why don't you pick it up? If you've always dreamed about running a race, why don't you try it? I mean, you know,
Right.
it's interesting how the social norms, or perhaps the peer pressure from a lot of people is, you know, when you retire, you just sit back and watch TV and I don't know what else to do. But I haven't had that problem, thankfully, and I'm hoping that more people won't.
Well, you are really, you give such good encouragement, you know, to really take up whatever you want to take up, what you long for and be passionate about. And I just can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us today and letting us in on the insights of the film and how it came to be. So Doug, we'll be watching you, and if there's more that is going to be in the public eye, I'm sure that we'll all be excited. And if not, we just love you for what you've done.
Well, thank you, April, and it's really wonderful to be part of the festival. So thank you so much for having the film as part of it.
Thank you, Doug.